Welcome to our third rules interpretation module. We will be discussing points of emphasis, as well as some recent rules changes and other really important topics that you may recall from the other modules, but could stand to get a little extra attention. The most significant recent change is the size and shape of the circle in the 2-4 division. It is no longer a 9-yard semicircle. It has been changed to a D made up of two 7-yard quarter circles connected by a 2-yard straight line. These new dimensions more closely resemble the circle in the older divisions, while providing more realistic playing space within the 25s. New for this year is that the away team now will wear the white socks. Further, if you have separate home and away uniforms, or reversible jerseys, you should wear the whites for away games. This change brings us in line with other organizations who have already done the same. Please be reminded that the corner play cannot begin without an umpire's whistle. This was changed last year. Also, we are aware of recent changes regarding corner masks, but for our league, they remain recommended but not required at the older levels. We will discuss this in the off-season among the directors. We should also take a couple of minutes to reinforce several other recent changes to make sure we're all on the same page. All of our divisions now play quarters, not halves. At the 2-4 level, we play 4 10-minute quarters. At the 5-6, it's 12.5-minute quarters. In the 7-8, we play 15-minute quarters. The 7-8 may be different than what umpires are accustomed to when they work middle school games, but these are our rules, not theirs. That said, if, at mutual agreement, both coaches and umpires wish to change the length of the quarters, they may. Just keep in mind that we do have a schedule to maintain, and the game should not overflow into the next time block. If there is no mutual agreement, there shall be no modification. Do not feel pressured to change if you don't want to. So, when do we change possession or direction? Whoever gets the center pass to start the game also gets the ball at the start of the second quarter. You do not switch sides until halftime. When you start the second half, the other team gets the center pass for the third and the fourth quarter, and the teams are both going in the other direction. You are only switching possession and direction at half. The other catch with moving to quarters is that there will be no timeouts or any other clock stoppages except for injury. This, again, is to help us stay on schedule with other games. We spoke about the additional field player in the 5th and 6th grade division. Reiterate, we have added a 7th field player, but there are never more than 7 field players allowed. If you don't have a goalkeeper, you do not get to replace that spot with an 8th runner. 7 runners, both sides. That's it. If you have a goalie, you have a goalie. If you don't, you don't. The last thing is that umpires must be paid at the time of the game on site. We're not accepting vouchers for future payment, as some of our umpires were only getting paid for their work once a season, or on a significant lag. This isn't very fair to our teenage umpires, and not getting paid right away was one of the 2 leading causes for why umpires did not return or refused work in certain towns. Hopefully now we have eliminated that and made it a little bit more enticing for the umpires to come out and be a part of our program. Moving on to our points of emphasis. We talked about pop-ups in the last module. With a pop-up, particularly in the 2-4 division, you have to blow the whistle right away, even if you don't know who caused it. Although usually it's the second player to engage the ball, if you're not sure who caused it, whistle it and call a bully. Pop-ups mean that sticks are swinging a little bit, especially in the 2-4 level. You don't want to encourage a situation where players are putting themselves in danger. On restarts, we need to remember at the 2-4 division, play must be held until everybody is 5 yards away. This goes for both offense and defense from the restart. In the older divisions, the offensive player can start right away, as soon as they stop the ball, and you ensure that they're starting from within playing distance from the point of the foul. Umpires, if you're not happy with where they're starting, stop them, hold play, point, make them move. You don't want to allow the players to run you over on this one, literally or figuratively. They need to listen to you, and you need to be assertive with where you want that ball to start. However, and usually more so with the 2-4s than anywhere else, they simply may not understand. So particularly in the 2-4 division, hold play and help the player a little bit. If you need to actually hold the play up, pick up the ball and move it for them. That's okay. Explain to them what you're doing. You know that confused kids, when they're being yelled at, get more confused and more upset, so we don't want to create that situation. Just know the difference between a player being confused as opposed to, say, being insubordinate. If the player is being insubordinate, you can call that an unsportsmanlike or a delay of game foul and give the ball back to the other team. Restarts below the 25, but outside the circle. In the 2-4 division, the ball has to be controlled for at least 3 yards before they go into the circle. Shorter players, shorter distance. We just want to get them used to the notion of not smacking the ball into the circle when they do a restart. So whether it be back and forth between their feet a few times, or they go a couple of steps, whatever the case may be, we want our 2-4 players to go 3 yards before they head into the circle. The 5th and 6th graders, like our 7th and 8th graders and in high school, need to go for at least 5 yards. Again, that can be in any direction, can be just back and forth, can be a pass to a teammate, as long as it stays out of the circle until another touch and 5 yards is achieved. So who's allowed inside the 25 in the 2-4 division? This one gets confusing sometimes. Inside our 25, it's a 3-on-3 game. As with many of our rules at this level, we're trying to manage positioning, we're trying to manage layers, and we're trying to simply develop skill and awareness at this level. So if the play is inside the 25, and that's not just the circle, but inside the 25, it's 3v3. You cannot have more than 3 players at any time inside the 25 from either team. For the attacking team, that's typically the 2 wings and the center. And as you'll recall from previous modules, the 2 wings are typically the weaker, younger, less experienced players. So yes, you've got your less experienced players potentially playing against more experienced midfielders in defense, but there's also no goalie, so it pretty much evens itself out. That said, if in the normal flow of the game, a midfielder or defensive back has a breakaway that began from their natural position on the field, the 25-yard line does not need to be treated like a brick wall that stops everybody cold. But, and this is a big one, what we don't want is where coaches are coaching their team in a way that they tell their wings not to go into the 25, instead letting their midfielders go in with their center. This sort of play is absolutely not the intent of the rule. It can happen from time to time if it's a natural flow of the game, but it is not the way you should be designing your attack. So coaches, be clear that you may not coach that way. Officials, please try to look out for this, and if you see it, warn the coaches that they must stop. It is unsportsmanlike, so it absolutely can be a yellow card if you need to. Coaches are never allowed on the field of play unless they are tending to a player who has been injured. In the 5-6 and 7-8 divisions, coaches will not cross over the 50 on the sideline into the other team's bench area. In the 2-4, we do allow coaches to roam the entire sideline to help their players, but coaches, you must wean yourselves off of doing this as the season goes on. We understand it can be hard to communicate with young, new players from all the way down the field, but as you get into the middle of the season, you should be doing it less and less, if at all. Let the kids play, and let them make mistakes. You may be surprised what they can learn from them. Coaches need to remember that they are not playing the game for the kids. As challenging as it may be, you need to lay off a bit and let the kids play. Also, read the room. Be aware of what's happening during the game. If your team is up 5-0, you do not need to be running down your opponent's sideline and getting in their way. They have enough to do on their own. You can afford to back off a little bit, or entirely. And then another area that frequently creates controversy is when third goals are legal or illegal. It is only illegal for a player to score a third goal or greater if their team is leading and in a power down situation. If the score of the game is within 3 goals either way, there's no power down. Therefore, any player can score. Speaking of power down, we're not going to go through this other than to say you need to read these and you should print this. Coaches, you need to carry this with you. You also need to teach it to your team in practice so that they can be employed in a game without making a big production over it. These steps are progressive and regressive, depending on the situation. For example, let's say you have one player who scored all 3 goals in a game. As long as the score is 3-0 or greater, that player cannot score another legal goal. However, if the lead shrinks to 3-1 and she scores again, that 4th goal is legal. The power down procedures step up with each additional margin from 3 and above, but they also step down as the lead shrinks, which hopefully it does. The purpose of these power down steps is to open up the field and create opportunities for the trailing team. The steps only apply to the team that is leading. It makes no sense to further disadvantage a trailing team, so they may continue to play under the normal rules. One point of clarification around who is responsible for tracking and enforcing the power down steps. It is the scorers table and the coaches, not the umpires. The scorers table should have 2 people, one from each team, who are in agreement with what the score is and who has scored the goals. They are in the best position to wave off a goal or remind a coach of what they should be doing. Let the umpires take care of managing play on the field, and the adults can handle the sportsmanship stuff. Keep a copy of the Power Down page at your scorers table. There is no formal powering down in the 7-8 division, but we request common sense and sportsmanship if one team is dominating the scoreboard. Just like powering down is meant to disadvantage one team and not the other, the same is true with penalty corners. A penalty corner is a penalty against the defense. At the start of a penalty corner, the defense must make certain positioning adjustments that give an advantage to the attacking team. However, what is often misunderstood is that the attacking team does not have any restrictions. They do not need to reduce numbers or send anyone back to the 50. Once the corner play begins, all players on the field may resume their normal roles. And finally, note that neither team may make any substitutions until the corner is complete. See Rule 2.3a for a full definition of when a corner is considered complete and substitutions may resume. Stick and ball height continues to be a major point of contention across the league. It shouldn't be all that complicated. In the 7-8 division, a ball may be lifted to any height as long as it does not create danger. Players must be in control of their sticks. In the 2-4 division, the ball and stick cannot rise above the knee of any player in the area or along the path that the ball travels, not just the hitter's knees. In the 5-6 division, we allow the umpire some discretion if no danger is created by a ball or stick raised higher than the hitter's hips. However, we don't want this to turn into another example of, this is why we can't have nice things. We are trying to be reasonable and allow our 5th and 6th graders to grow their skills and prepare for the next level, but we need to be conscious that this is a rec league, and not everyone is at the same level of readiness for higher level skills. Coaches must instruct hip-to-hip movement. The discretion is for marginal extra height, not full shoulder-to-shoulder swings or high lifts. Focus on proper fundamentals. Allowing small kids to take big swings rarely results in proper technique. There's not a meaningful difference between what we're asking here and what is allowed at the higher levels. For the most part, it's simply a matter of building good technique and helping our youth umpires identify danger. It also does not mean that all hip-high hits are legal. If a ball is raised to hip height into a defending player within playing distance, it is a foul against the hitter, no matter the level of play. And it should go without saying, but like many examples we've used, we have learned some things need to be said. Air dribbling is not legal in the 5-6 division. Air dribbling is an intentional play that occurs above the hip. It is not incidental, therefore it is illegal. Hopefully, the last words on ball height, and another we never thought we'd have to address. Should you choose to defend a corner in the style of the wall you see in a soccer penalty kick, be advised of the following. If the defenders are further away than a few yards, and the ball is lifted into them on the shot, they are not protected by the rules, let alone your coaching strategy. Besides risking injury, if they play the ball off of their body, it is a foul against them. If that foul would have otherwise prevented the scoring of a goal, the result is a penalty stroke. By the way, this sounds like something else that has been discussed several times throughout these modules. The idea of using a defensive back as a goalie in the 2-4 division, when a defensive player intentionally places themselves in harm's way, without regard for actively playing the ball or marking an attacker. The fault for whatever happens next is on that defender, or on you for coaching them to do that. Lastly, we need to emphasize the importance of adults acting like adults in all aspects of this league. The league's priority is that we coach to teach skill and sportsmanship. We want to win. We like to win, but at the end of the day, it's elementary school and middle school hockey. Just teach and play and see what happens. There's no need to push the rules to gain some advantage. And don't forget that the umpires in our elementary school divisions are mostly also children. They are developing a skill that will help them develop as young adults. Let them officiate and learn. There's a time and a place and a right way to give them feedback. Berating them in-game and directly or indirectly encouraging your spectators and players to do the same is not it. We're not going to dwell on this final point, but it's presented because it is a real effect of poor behavior. A town left the league recently because, at least in part, of a number of sportsmanship issues they've experienced. It's not everybody, and we'd like to believe it's not most people, but it's still more than it should be. Whether you agree or disagree with these points, they are real on at least some level and should serve as motivation to make that extra effort to encourage a positive environment for all. You've now reached the end of Module 3. Coaches and umpires, you each have one more unit to complete.